We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
Hello, hello. Welcome to Open Wide for some soccer. My name is Seth Vertelny. Joining me this evening, Pablo Maurer, Thomas Floyd. Guys, we got a lot to talk about. Where do we begin?
There's a lot to unpack tonight.
Pigeon.
Thomas is mostly focused on the pigeon that LA Galaxy central defender Jelle Van Damme senselessly, brutally massacred on the Yankee Stadium pitch this past weekend.
Yes, Thomas brought this story to my attention yesterday, and today it started to make the rounds a little bit. Thomas, do you want to fill us in on what happened?
There's a video that emerged of the Galaxy warming up, particularly Ashley Cole and Jelle Van Damme, just knocking the ball around Yankee Stadium. There's a pigeon in clear danger. It almost gets taken out once or twice. They keep passing the ball around, and then the pigeon meets its inevitable demise. Then, perhaps most strangely, there is now a clip on Twitter of Van Damme carrying the pigeon off the field in his bare hands. The pigeon looks pretty...
Because it was bare hands. It was wrapped in a jersey, though.
Was it?
Should notice, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still...
Ashley Cole's jersey.
I wouldn't want my hands anywhere near it.
I mean, LA Galaxy insider Adam Serrano tweeted this out as proof that the pigeon did not in fact die, but it looked pretty lifeless.
In that clip, there's little evidence to indicate that the pigeon is alive.
Yeah, I mean, it was the most senseless violence against a pigeon at a sporting event since Randy Johnson's infamous fastball.
Just an explosion of feathers.
that was
I
tough.
forgot about that one.
It's tough to watch.
I enjoy the Serrano's assertion that he was told by Jelle Van Damme that the pigeon was fine or alive, as if Van Damme is like just some sort of freelance veterinarian or
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that Van Damme and Cole intentionally hit the pigeon with the ball. However,
it definitely was not. I mean, Cole looks clearly shocked when the pigeon gets hit.
Yeah, but they're passing the ball back and forth for a good minute with the pigeon right there in between them, and they don't seem to really pay it any mind. So that the ball hits the pigeon would seem to be almost an inevitability with the way that they were passing it back and forth. But I think the thing that we're all wondering here is if there's a bigger conspiracy involving Harambe. I mean,
it's tough to talk about, Have you guys seen the Cincinnati Zoo's Twitter account and the mentions for them, which are just... I love that the Cincinnati Zoo's Twitter account is probably clearly ran by just like a low-level employee there or something like that, and that he just woke up one day and came into work and all of a sudden was like getting shit on 24 hours a day by teenagers who were just saying, "You killed Harambe."
I hope that this person's job performance has some metrics about level of engagement.
Oh, that'd be incredible. He's just locked in the bonus all year.
Yeah,
this guy's running social media at Facebook in like 2 months.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that
it's like multiplied Cincinnati Zoo's Twitter follower count 18 times.
The goal was probably to increase their follower count like 1,000 or 2,000 in the year, and it's probably gone up like 100,000 in the last week. So this may be the greatest social media manager of all time.
I don't know. Chris Thomas, look out.
Yeah, so before we get into DC United, Pablo, we have to get into the end of yesterday's game when your life flashed right before your eyes in the form of a Taylor Kemp right-footed shot. We'll post the link on our page if you didn't see it, but Pablo was behind the goal. with his camera in front of his face. Taylor Kemp hits a pretty solid right-footed shot, goes wide of the goal, and Pablo just sees the ball go about 6 inches whizzing past his head, and it could have been the end of Pablo.
Yeah, it was like a Matrix moment, though. Everything slowed down. I saw every panel on the ball as it rotated slowly.
Were you more frightened for your face or for the camera?
I was more. I honestly I didn't think anything at the second. I just got it out of the way. But right afterwards, I was like, "Good God!" If that had hit me in the face, it would define the rest of my career as a soccer. You know what I mean? The only thing anybody would ever think about when it comes to my work, writing photos, whatever, is me just getting creamed by a soccer ball.
What's amazing is how nonchalant you were about that ball coming right by your head. I mean, you didn't really flinch. You just sort of moved slowly over about 6 inches.
I mean, when you're back there, you just sort of watch for the. You know what I mean? You have to be aware of what's around you. And like I said, I'm not going to be the guy who gets jiffed into oblivion.
Yeah, you did get jiffed, but I wouldn't say it was into oblivion.
Well, I would love to read who's that shitty Deadspin guy, Billy
Heisley.
I would love to read the headline for his post, which he would have up in 5 minutes.
MLS photographer smashed in face by soccer
exactly.
ball.
He would probably use it as proof that MLS has substandard photographers.
Right,
and,
exactly.
in Europe, the photographers would have clearly gotten out of the way.
Anyways, should probably talk about if you guys want to call in, obviously, we'd love to hear from you. 708-LT OWFSS. As always, the long tan line is open for your calls. What do you guys want to talk about? I guess we should talk about DC United first and foremost.
Yeah. Have we got any messages on the...
Negative. Nope. No messages.
It's always a little depressing when we go an entire week and don't even get one message.
That's what happens when we go an entire week and don't even mention the fact that we're going to do a podcast.
I kind of like it being a surprise.
Yeah.
Let's get into DC United. Yesterday, they go down 2-0 to the New York Red Bulls in the second half and scored 2 goals in 3 minutes, managed to get a 2-2 draw. Sort of a bittersweet end to a bittersweet homestand, I would say. 4 games in a row at home. They don't lose any of them, but they also only win 1 of them. In the dumpster fire known as the Eastern Conference, they are sitting in the 6th and final playoff position. But it has to go down as a missed opportunity at home, only getting 1 win in 4 games.
For sure. And, the East is very forgiving this year, but you look ahead at their schedule, and it is soft from the perspective that they have, 2 games against the Fire, who are the worst team in MLS. And I believe all of the rest of their games, you said, Pablo, before the show, are against Eastern Conference opponents. So, you have that in mind, and you say, all right, they're in pretty good shape, but they have a bunch of road games coming up. I believe 4 of the next 5, maybe 3 of the next 4, but they're going to have to get points on the road. They've only won 1 game away from RFK this season, so the fact that they weren't able to get more wins at RFK during this homestand is a problem, I think, going forward. It's going to make things tough, and it's not a hole that is insurmountable, but they're going to have to figure things out on the road and get some better results than they've been posting so far this season in order for them to make that playoff push.
Hopping back to the pigeon thing real quick, Mike McGrew on Twitter makes an excellent point, and I knew this, that the Cincinnati Zoo actually has stuffed the very last passenger pigeon. It's like a species of pigeon that went extinct, I want to say in the 30s or something like that.
Yeah.
Worlds converging.
Wow.
I mean, it's all part of the LA Galaxy killed Harambe.
The conspiracy grows. All of a sudden, it's got some legs.
Galaxy did Harambe.
I mean, I think it's probably right now about as likely as Ted Cruz's father killing JFK, but
so
highly likely.
It happened?
Yeah, exactly. So it's factual information. Is what you're saying?
I'm saying there are some connections there, and it's probably worth exploring a little more.
Does that mean Ted Cruz is also the Zodiac killer?
I just like the idea that Van Damme maybe just carried the pigeon off into the tunnel and then just bit its head off or something. shared it with Cole for like pregame sustenance. Didn't work. Apparently, they lost. Anyways.
Hey guys, I have a stat here from Thomas Floyd's piece at Goal.com yesterday. I wanted to throw this into our discussion about.
This isn't Pigeon related. You just need to.
No, it's not. It's about DC United's home form. In 2014 and 2015, DC United combined to go 22-5-7 at home. This year, they are 5-4-4, which is, I believe, still the worst home record in MLS. Why have they struggled so much at home this year?
I think they're not as good a team in general as they were the last 2 seasons.
Interesting. So you're saying their lack of talent bleeds over into home and away games?
Statistically, that appears to be the
theory
case.
you have.
I also think, the environment at RFK hasn't been what it was the last couple of years.
Let's be realistic. I mean, they're second to last in the league in attendance.
Yeah,
could just say that. I mean, and even those numbers sometimes you feel they're a little inflated.
Yeah,
I
think we're at a point with RFK where next season I'm sure there will be a final year at RFK boost of some kind, and we'll probably see some good crowds, particularly in the second half of the season. The last couple years, there were some good crowds because it was a bit of a resurgence for DC United, and there was some excitement around the team. And now it's just kind of a mediocre team just scrapping for a playoff spot. The stadium presents a pretty bad experience by all accounts. I think that's the reason they are leaving it. So it's not surprising that the fans aren't flocking to RFK the way they used to. So not the best environment. Building's not rocking. Team's not as talented as it was the last 2 years, and makes for a team that's only has 5 wins at home this season.
Yesterday when it started really pouring, I was in the visitors' dugout, and I just went to turn to walk down the tunnel, and I just started going down the stairs, and I hear this faint voice from around 2 or 3 corners go, "Don't come this way. Don't come this way." I look in front of me, and there's literally 4.5 inches of water on the ground. I just imagine that the person around the corner was drowning or something like that.
I feel like you just described the scene from Titanic.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I would imagine
waiting for Billy Zane to come shooting at you.
I would imagine that water is going to stay there for a long time, perhaps turn into a breeding ground for mosquitoes.
Yeah, I think what RFK has always lacked is a jungle type environment where fish can thrive.
I think that would really give United a little bit of that home field advantage that they've been lacking this year. If I could get Zika at the game.
Also,
whoa, that got dark.
Am I the only one who imagines that, if you go to RFK in, December of next year, it's already going to look like a post-apocalyptic future? That stadium, the moment DC has played their last game, it's just going to completely go to shit.
Did you guys hear? We were all at the game, so didn't hear it, but apparently Jamal, one of our listeners, is telling me in the live chat here that Taylor Twellman knocked on RFK's food on the broadcast.
Really?
Yeah. The food's gotten better this year. It's just whatever, Taylor Gourmet or
yeah. I was gonna say, is he bagging on the media food or the? Presumably it's the media food. I doubt he goes to the
concourse.
Yeah. Yeah, it is better this year.
This past game, I will say,
said,
to give people
after
the inside
delay,
look.
he said he tried a hot dog but couldn't finish it because it was, quote, 78 years old.
So it is the concourse food.
Yeah.
Which,
he should have gone to the pupusa stand.
Was he drinking a beer out of a Charlie Davies cup?
God, that's incredible.
Yeah, that happened.
That beer was so bad.
That was
a
2
year
summers.
ago.
Yeah. Copa Centro Americana.
Yeah, they were serving Charlie Davies DC United cups, and those were at least 3 years old.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about Steve Birnbaum, circling back here, who has clearly been DC's best defensive player, I think, this year, but has recently
clearly been their best offensive player.
Yeah. Not saying a lot. Which I think DC sort of had in mind for him when they drafted him, right? He scored some insane amount of goals. His last year at Cal, like I want to say 14, 15 goals. But he struggled to find the back of the net in MLS so far until this year. Now he's finding it with his head and with his feet.
It feels like, I guess all season they've been doing these design plays to find him, particularly at the back post. But just for whatever reason, they've really been working the last 3 weeks now, right? They've had a goal that Birnbaum has scored or created 3 matches in a row. So he's really become an important part of their attack. And you give some credit to Taylor Kemp. He's played a part in a couple of these goals as well. His service has been really good. But it's I just think another part of Birnbaum's development as a player that a couple years in, we're now seeing him be the consistent offensive threat that I think DC envisioned when they drafted him.
Huge fan, by the way, of all these ridiculous plays the Red Bulls try every single week.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I don't know why teams don't do that more. It seems like they come off pretty well, like half the time.
Yeah. The Red Bulls had a couple weeks ago, they had 2 matches in a row where the same set piece worked, where they have like a player. They have a player. It was Dax stands over the free kick, like a foot in front of it, and then just gets out of the way a split second before they strike it.
That's completely an old NASL technique, and
Right,
they
yeah.
used to do that. They used to have offensive walls. I mean, they literally have 2-3 dudes line up in front of the free kick and get out of the way at the last second.
Yeah.
Surprised you don't see that more. You know, I mean,
The crazy thing is, for how comical they look sometimes, they seem to be pretty effective.
the best one was that highly illegal corner that Klestrin like played to himself somehow.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
It's just ridiculous.
Wait, did he do the whole like roll the ball an inch forward and then
Yes.
run away and then have another player come over?
And dribble it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just schoolyard stuff.
I love that one.
Vaguely related, did you guys see remember that Germany elaborate set piece in the World Cup where it was someone like fell over while they were trying to take it and it didn't come off? Like, apparently it emerged a few weeks later. There was like footage from a training session before that, and that was the design set play. A player runs up to the ball and trips and falls, and you're supposed to think, oh, he just screwed up and he's out of the play. And then it's designed to then be chipped to that player, and it almost worked in the World Cup, but it like just didn't quite come off.
Wow.
Basically, to go on your point, it would be nice to see more teams work on that stuff.
Why not? I mean, I feel like, especially on corners. I mean, hardly anybody even scores on corners. You might as well try something different. You know,
it does seem like you're just kind of pumping
lumping
the
the
ball
ball
into
in,
the
yeah.
box. Yeah.
I remember actually the U.S. and unfortunately for Chris Wondolowski, they didn't score this, but I remember they had an elaborate free kick routine at the end of the Belgium game when they were down 2-1, and they very nearly scored off of it.
Yeah, and Dempsey got stoned by Courtois from like point blank range, right?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly. I remember it was a fancy routine. I don't remember exactly what they did, but it was almost amazing.
Here's a question: Is Birnbaum DC's best player? Period. I'm including
I mean, it's
Bill
either
Hamid.
him or Bill. Yeah.
Well, who rate him?
I mean, this year, yes, and
Yeah.
I would say that it's really difficult to compare field players to goalkeepers. Goalkeepers are a category of their own, but I think that this year Hamid's been good, but I think that in terms of value to the team, if you took away Birnbaum, DC United would be worse off this year than they would be if you took away Hamid.
Bear in mind, Birnbaum's in the U.S. national team picture, whereas Hamid has been apparently put on a raft, lit on fire, and like shoved down the Potomac River by Jurgen Klinsmann. So
And Hamid might still, right now at this very moment, be the U.S.'s best option at goalkeeper.
I think that's a reasonable discussion to have.
I mean,
Tim Howard. I'll say this: Tim Howard has been playing pretty well since he came to MLS, and I wonder if this
Tim Howard,
actually will raise his stock. But yeah, Guzan's for club has been pretty questionable for the last year. A lot of the younger options, you've got Horvath, you've got
where's he now?
Molda. Is that right?
yeah, he's their starter. He has been for a couple of years, which is pretty impressive because he's only like 20 years old right now.
And at that point, we're looking at David Bingham. There aren't a lot of other enticing options at this point.
Right. Back to United. On that set piece where Birnbaum provided the assist, Patrick Mullins scored the goal as the second with DC United. He really appears to be a shrewd pickup so far. 6-7 games into his career, definitely an upgrade on what we've seen.
I
from
think we all
Alvaro
kind of knew this
Saborio.
would happen, right?
Yeah, he just feels like the type of player who, in general, wherever he went in MLS, if you just gave him a chance to be an everyday starter, he feels like he's a double-digit goal scorer. And then, in particular, he just seems like a fit for the DC system. Just hard-working striker, is willing to do the dirty work defensively, pressuring, can just get on the end of set pieces and that kind of thing. He's a physical player up top to a degree. So I think it's you're right. I think it was fairly easy to predict that this would be a good fit, but it's still been impressive to see how quickly he's adapted to the new team.
And this is one of those things where you can speculate about it and never really know if it's true or not. But I wonder what kind of a chip on his shoulder he's playing with, because he's sort of been undervalued his whole career, going all the way back to the draft where he slipped.
Yeah.
With New England, didn't get a ton of time. With NYCFC, didn't get a ton of time, even though in a lot of the small amount of minutes he's had, he's been pretty productive. But like, this is his real chance to show people that he can be a starter in this league, and it seems like he's really making the most of it. And I wonder what sort of motivation he's gotten out of the last few years of his career.
I'm sure that's a part of it, and he's a guy who is pretty savvy with the media, so I don't think he really would get carried away with his emotions. He says all the right things when he's talking to reporters, but he's competitive, and I'm sure when New England left him unprotected, it said a lot that in his first game for NYCFC, he scored a goal against the Revolution and was pointing to the NYCFC badge. And then now he's playing for DC, and you get a sense that there was, a little underlying frustration with the lack of opportunities in New York. So he's a player who I do think that would be a part of the equation.
Yeah, another player, I guess, who happened to get their first goal against the Red Bulls, Marcelo Sarves, is somebody else who I think has been sort of the glue for DC this year, and somebody who hasn't gotten talked about a lot. Certainly, obviously, was not exactly underappreciated in LA. I mean, he was part of 2 of their MLS Cup runs, and certainly was effective in midfield. Comes to United, plays a little bit further back in midfield than he did at LA, and is just honestly, almost unexpectedly, a like-for-like replacement for Davy Arnaud. On track to set the all-time record for yellow cards in a season for DC United. Clearly has sort of filled that character void left by Arnaud, the hard-nosed enforcer, get under your skin, make you hate your life kind of guy.
While being a very likable locker room personality on the other side of it. I always thought with Arnaud and now
Agreed.
Sarvas, those were interesting duality to their performances.
I mean, it is another classic DC United signing, but I got to say it's come off really well. It was sort of you saw how DC fell apart really the second that Arnaud left last year. So it's sort of refreshing they've actually managed to replace him.
And I'd say I was among the people who were a little skeptical when they signed Sarvas. I think when he first was acquired, it wasn't completely clear what role they had in mind. It seemed like maybe they had missed out on the attacking midfield options they really wanted, and that they were settling for another, just journeyman MLS veteran who's on the wrong side of 30. But, in fact, it was, an extremely smart signing that they were able to get him from Colorado from what appears to be a bargain price, and that he has evolved into this new role, and that they had the vision to know that he could handle this new position so well.
I think it's interesting, too, at least for a while there, he was paired with Nick DeLeon, and it sort of gave Nick the freedom to go out wide a little bit more than he had been doing, which is obviously, I think, where Nick prefers to play. More recently, DeLeon hasn't even been on the pitch. Thomas Floyd's boy, Jared Jeffrey.
Yes, I think
we have to give Thomas some credit here.
This is the point of the show
Thank
when
you.
we bow down to Thomas's.
I'm not going to bow down to anybody, especially not about Jared Jeffrey. Okay.
Thomas.
Bow down, Papa.
Thomas has been
Bow down.
he's been beating the Jared Jeffrey drum for a while.
Thought that was going to be. Just been beating the Jared Jeffrey. Oh, the drum. Okay.
The drum. It's a figure of speech.
Yeah.
Even the last couple of years when he's been featuring very rarely.
There was a random Champions League game last fall when I think he scored a goal, and I just turned to Pablo in the press box. It was like, he's so good. Why is he not playing?
And I probably rolled my eyes. I don't know.
You tweeted about it, making fun of me.
Yeah,
that's why I
yeah.
remember it.
You just get fixated with weird players.
I mean, we're going to go back in time a little bit, but at one point, Jared Jeffrey was a big U.S. national team prospect.
He was
Sure.
the captain of their team that tried to qualify for the Olympics.
Yeah.
I mean, when he and Doyle got signed at the same time, it was like this infusion of promising American youth.
I mean, even at that point, his stock had slipped. Like 2 or 3 years before he
Clearly,
signed
he
with
just signed a
United.
contract with DC
Yeah,
United.
right,
so.
right. He was with a German Bundesliga team. I forget which one.
It was
Thomas.
Mainz.
Yeah, he's with Mainz. I don't know if he ever played in the Bundesliga for them.
He never did. He played a lot of games for their reserve team, but
Right.
never for the first team.
So the point is, he has the ability, and you can see now that he's gotten a consistent run of games that he can really be an effective MLS starting caliber player, and it's turning out to be a really shrewd pickup for United.
Well, I think it's worth mentioning too that De Leon off the bench has looked pretty good, and you sort of get a feeling that maybe because of any player on DC United, I feel like De Leon's starting spot, whether it be out wide or centrally, has almost always been guaranteed. I mean, he's had a couple of years now where, let's be honest, I mean, you just say he's underperformed and underproduced.
Yeah,
But he's Ben's type of player where it's a no nonsense thing. You know exactly what you're going to get every game, and I don't know. Maybe this does Nick some good to see the bench for a while. Because he certainly has been playing pretty passionately when he comes off it.
Yeah, this most recent game I thought was the best stretch he has played for DC United all season. He came off the bench and immediately made an impact, was running at defenders, was trying to make things happen in the opposing third. And it's just the type of performance we haven't consistently seen out of him since his rookie year. And I'm not sure what the explanation is. Maybe there's a degree of complacency because he became so accustomed to a starting spot, and maybe you're not pushing as hard to make a difference. Maybe it's just a matter of after one season, teams had some film of him and were able to pick up on his tendencies, and he didn't adapt back as perhaps as well as some other players have. But he's a guy who still can make a big difference, and has the ability to make these individual plays, particularly in the final third when he's on his game. And if being benched is the thing that kind of ignites that fire again, then that's it further justifies the decision to give Jeffrey his shot. And
So how many games do United have left? 10?
9.
They have played 24 games, which
So
would
10
mean
games.
they have 10 games.
All right, so
remaining.
let's just make a T-minus 10 game prediction here. DC United playoffs, yes or no, Thomas?
I think they'll get the 6th seed, and then who knows who they'd end up. They'd have a road game in the wild card round, and we've seen how they do on the road, so it might be a short playoff run, but I do think they'll get it, mostly because the Revolution have completely collapsed. Orlando's still a little bit of a mess. Just I don't know who else would beat them out for that spot. Maybe Orlando.
They're in an interesting situation because they're in the 6th and final spot right now. Montreal, who they play on Wednesday, is in the 5th spot, but they're 5 points ahead. So let's say Montreal wins on Wednesday. Now DC United is 8 points behind the next closest team. So they're in a playoff spot, but they have no margin for error because they have no teams that they can really overtake. At the same time, the teams below them are all a mess.
I don't know. I mean, I could easily see Orlando overtaking them.
I could.
I mean, of any team in that group, really Orlando has
I
the
think
best
it's
shot.
I'd also keep an eye on Columbus. They've been so bad for the last 3 months, but they're the type of team that with the talent they have, that now that they've ended this 3-month winless streak, that I could see them going on a run. And it takes so little. We're seeing that with the Sounders, and that's in a tougher Western Conference. You go on a 3-game winning streak, and you're right back in the thick of things.
Yeah, Columbus wins their first game since May this weekend, and all of a sudden they're 5 points out of a playoff spot with the game in hand. So that's tells
ridiculous.
I mean, should we even rule out? Yeah, we're going to rule out Chicago, of course. Anyway, it's a stupid question to ask. I'm going to say they don't make it. I guess you two seem inclined to say they do make it. I'm going to say they don't. Not playing the way they do at home. And I think, to flesh this out a little bit, I think we'll know a lot more about their chances after these games at Montreal and Chicago. Now, Thomas, you think that a win in Montreal is a big ask. I think Montreal is struggling. I think Drogba looks like he's sort of in his mid to late season tuning out period where maybe he just wants somebody to wake him up when they make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think that is a highly winnable game. And I think they have to, the Chicago at home, that is any result other than a win is inexcusable.
Yeah.
So I think if they come out of those 2 games with 1 point or no points, I mean, I'd be almost ready to put a fork in them, honestly.
If they come out of those 2 games with no points, then that's a problem. I think
an exclusive analysis,
yeah.
Thomas Floyd.
They're
going to want to get some points in these next couple of games.
Yes. Montreal obviously is coming off a horrific performance. They became the first home team to lose a game to the Chicago Fire.
36 games.
Yeah, and
over 2 total road seasons.
And it was 3-0. It wasn't even close. So that's bad. And they've been struggling, but they still have so much talent. They're the type of team that you just are waiting for them to snap back into it. Especially, not even like Drogba. I can see Drogba phoning in the rest of the way, but like Piatti's so good. He's gonna figure things out.
They're strong in goal too. I mean, I think
Bush is solid. Simon, is reigning defender of the year, so they have a lot of talent there.
Yeah, I
just good fan support too. I mean,
I just want to say for the record, Pablo, that I never said that I thought DC United was going to make the playoffs.
Oh, well then, what's your prediction?
I don't think they're going to.
What are your reasons?
I think because of what I mentioned before, they have no margin for error in terms of upward mobility. There's not a lot of teams that I see them overtaking, so they have to hold on to that 6th spot. And I just think the teams below them are more talented. And
I agree.
Orlando's better.
Columbus.
Even New England, who's been in a horrible run. I mean, but they're a better team.
New England's
they've looked so bad.
New England's back line is so atrocious.
The Kamara pickup is just grossly misjudged that. I think he's not fitting in at all there.
Yeah,
I mean he's doing Kamara. He hasn't been bad for them, but they needed to use that cap space or whatever resources they used to acquire him to find a center back. And the fact that they
there's literally
they've.
I'm going to say there's 15 MLS teams that their next signing always needs to be a center back, and it's never a fucking center back.
It's amazing to me the teams that will they'll spend almost DP money or just straight up get a DP just to be a depth player. I'm looking at, I don't know, I guess it's worked out for them, but the Red Bulls using DP slots on Gonzalo Verón and who's the new forward they just acquired. The fact that
Verón looked good in limited 45-second appearance yesterday.
Yeah. New York I think has some real defensive questions, and the fact that they use the rest of their roster resources, cap space, allocation money, whatever it was, to acquire more attacking depth was a little strange to me. And the thing is, I'm not really I'm citing them, but they're really just an example of a pattern that's been across the league. It feels like teams are inclined to make splashy signings for attacking players who might not even start, as opposed to really going out and strengthening their backlines. And New England in particular, they didn't need Kai Kamara. They had Juan Agudelo, they had Charlie Davies, they had players who could score goals and make things happen in the attack, and they really need to address that back line. They've needed to address the back line ever since AJ Soares left almost 2 years ago, and still haven't done it. So I don't have a lot of belief in the Revolution right now.
You guys want to know what I was just doing when Thomas was talking? I Googled Oguchi Onyewu.
See, like if he's landed yet, you know.
He is
Still to see if he's still too proud for MLS.
Was
he's
it-
still a free agent.
Wasn't he about to sign with someone like
Well, that's what I-
surprisingly
He'll
good?
be in NASL or USL. I guarantee you.
That's what I was checking, because you're talking about teams that need some center back depth. I was like, what about Oguchi Onyewu? I thought he was trying to come back. Apparently, he was close to getting a contract with Rangers this offseason.
Yeah.
Now back in the Scottish Premier League.
After
Apparently,
their financial crisis.
yeah, they've worked their way up through the lower divisions,
Yeah.
but apparently that trial did not result in a contract offer. Oguchi Onyewu is available for any MLS teams, and
Roster freeze is not until like September, mid-September.
Well, I
Like,
wanna
you
know
can
how
still
many-
sign free agents.
How many MLS general managers are listening to Open Wide for some soccer right now? Well, that's a great
Like-
idea.
Half of them?
I mean, if we could affect. Okay.
It's just spontaneous.
All right, 6 Degrees of Rochester Rhinos.
Okay.
Jordi Cruyff, not Johan Cruyff. Jordi Cruyff.
What?
Dude, I mean, he played for Barcelona for who else? Man U, I think.
Well, don't give him any hints.
Yeah, I knew he was at Barcelona, but what was the time frame?
All right, I'll give you
Yeah.
a little bit of
It was like in the 90s.
early mid 90s.
Yeah.
But yeah, see, like
I don't have.
You're not
that-
invincible.
I do not have that intense a knowledge of soccer, like basically pre like 1998. So
Hold on.
he played until 2010, but it's fine.
Oh well,
Do you guys
for
do-
who?
All right, 92 through 96 Barcelona, 96 through 2000 Manchester United. So
2000.
Yeah.
Okay, I can work with that. So he played,
about
with,
Beckham?
played
I
with
mean,
David Beckham.
yeah, all right.
Yeah.
God damn it! I mean, I solved it for you.
I was gonna say he played with Pep Guardiola, who
Oh,
who
nice.
coached
David
David Villa,
Wow.
Played with Ethan White.
Ethan White.
Who
That
played with John McCarthy.
the David Villa Ethan White jump is it's a good one.
Which then goes to John
All right,
McCarthy.
let's try something. Wayne Gretzky.
Okay. Okay.
Wayne Gretzky. LA Kings legend
yes.
Wayne Gretzky.
Edmonton Oilers legend Wayne Gretzky.
Oh, you're going with the Oilers route. Interesting. Well, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but
He's not in the LAFC ownership group, is he?
no.
He
One of the
sounds
few-
like he would be.
One of the few people that is not.
One of the only people not in the LAFC ownership group.
Finish him.
I don't think there's much of a route here that I can come up. I'm sure Wayne Gretzky was in LA at the same time as Andrew Shue. Is this a real stretch?
Jesus Christ.
They were in the same city.
Who was he married to? He was married to an actress of some sort, right?
Yeah, I actually was trying to remember that. But
All right, you guys keep doing the podcast, and I'll figure out the 6 degrees to the Rochester Rhinos for Wayne Gretzky.
That was the first non-soccer person that you've put in 6 degrees of Rochester Rhinos.
I mean, we have to, you know,
that was a
to
joke.
branch out, you know.
Did not see Wayne Gretzky.
All right, you know what? Can we do one more?
Okay.
I'm looking at our producer here. Can we do one more? We can? Okay, good.
Pablo's the producer.
Yeah, exactly. President Barack Obama. You cannot use the White House visits.
I was about to say.
You cannot use White House visits.
Man.
Come on, you can do this.
All right, so I'm like trying to go through the Oregon State basketball coach.
All right, President Barack Obama, Secretary of State was Hillary Clinton, who was endorsed, her run for presidency was endorsed by Henry Kissinger,
Interesting.
who brought Pelé to the United States.
Ah, okay.
So I'm at 4 now? We can get from Pelé to...
I'm curious why some of these feel like they're more of a stretch than Obama met them at the White House.
What? They certainly... was a cabinet member. You do it then, Obama. Go ahead.
Wait,
45 seconds.
let me try to think of. I want to follow the initial rule of not going through the White House visit. Okay, so he. Okay, I got one. He he's served in the Chicago government with
Real reach there.
with Rahm Emanuel,
Well, Rahm Emanuel was his chief of staff.
chief of staff. There you go. Yeah.
Served in the Chicago government with Rahm Emanuel.
I forgot. That was a while ago with Rahm as
Okay.
the chief of staff.
Okay, and then
yes.
where are you going to go, Rahm Emanuel?
Rahm Emanuel's brother is Ari Emanuel, who is a character on Entourage, and in the movie he met Thierry Henry.
Wow, Jesus Christ. This is incredible.
And Thierry,
You got 2 steps left.
yeah, okay. Who?
I mean, you made the big jump already.
Yeah.
Finish him.
Man, like I could get like Thierry Henry played. Oh, man. To get it in 2
15
steps.
seconds.
Oh wait, Thierry Henry played with Johnny Steele, who's on the Rochester Rhinos.
Wow. All right. Back to the podcast. Jesus Christ.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of Thierry Henry and Johnny Steele, I think we should delve a little bit more into the Red Bulls, the team that we witnessed blow.
I want you guys to know we lost 6 viewers during that segment. Go ahead.
That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
So the Red Bulls have this interesting habit that they continued yesterday. In 4 consecutive away games, they have had the lead, and in all 4 of those games, they have ended up tying. And in 3 of those games, they were actually ahead by 2 goals.
Yes, in the second half.
Yeah. So you could almost see once DC United got that first goal on the penalty kick that it was like a matter of time before they gave up that second goal. I mean, the Red Bulls are still in pretty good shape. They're in 3rd in the East. They've actually gone 8 games unbeaten in MLS. But they seem to have a little bit of a mental hurdle that they need to overcome right now.
Yeah, do you guys want to hear what BWP had to say about it? Because he was pretty despondent.
The clip is ready.
No, just keep talking and I'll pull it up.
Oh, come on.
I would like to hear it eventually.
Yeah. Well, we'll come back to this.
It's funny because I randomly was in Philly a few weeks ago for one of these other blown 2-0 leads. And, you know what? I also forgot they blew a lead. I think it was only 1-0 in the second half of an Open Cup game against the Union as well. So you can throw that into the equation. They lost, or they played to a 2-2 draw with the Union that felt like a loss because they were up a man, up 2 goals in the second half, or up a man by the end of the game. And they were pretty devastated in the locker room after, and Dax McCarty went on a pretty incredible mini rant.
That was rough.
Yeah, the best part of that was
I think he called the most embarrassing performance he's ever been a part of or something.
He said that he was like Chris Pontius should be giving us a cut of his goal bonus because we're just like
I think he was actually asking for that.
Yeah, we're just like letting him score the same goal over and over again. And yeah, they had all these quotes that were like, if we don't figure out how to close out games on the road, it's going to be a long season. They still have not figured out.
Here's Bradley Wright Phillips on last night's performance.
Tough road point, but the second half slips away from you guys. How do you explain this?
Rubbish. Mistakes. It's happened, I don't know, 3 times this season. I don't know, man. It's got to stop. I just heard a stat from Jesse that, that's a potential 16 points. It makes me feel sick.
Just in terms of fixing mentality, how do you guys, as one of the leaders of this team, how do you galvanize this team and try to fix the problem?
I don't know. It's something we're going to have to work on, but just stop making mistakes, man. Concentrate. It's the little details. It's something we focus on as a team. We don't really care about, like talent and ability. Those things, we're all here for a reason. We obviously have that. Just concentrate and focus on the details, and things like this won't happen.
I mean, that sounds like a very, very frustrated man. And, I asked Marsh after the game if this was just becoming a mental complex where, at some point in the second half, it starts sneaking into your head, oh, shit, are we going to do this again? And he said, yeah, it's entirely mental. So how do you get over that?
I think it's not easy, obviously, or they would have solved it already, but it just seems like, we could see it watching the game, that once they take the 2-0 lead, they kind of stop playing the way they had been playing the rest of the match. They're not going into 50-50 balls in midfield with as much energy, and they seem a little more content to try to absorb pressure, and that's not their strong suit. This is a team that applies pressure and tries to win the ball high up the field, and I think they just need to figure out how to continue doing that. Now, I will say, when you look at their style of play, it's maybe not surprising that they lose steam in the second halves of games, particularly in the summer when it's hot, because they play this very exhausting style. That might be a part of it.
But I just think there's something to be said, too, for in a few of these games, so they blown leads in, teams have unlocked them in a really rudimentary way, man. I mean, they just lump balls over the top, and that's that. And a team that presses properly sort of has a plan B there. But I just feel like with United, and part of it obviously was the field conditions, which it was borderline unplayable. But DC immediately found success when they just lumped balls over the top, lumped them forward,
and you know what else?
Which they're really good at doing. So.
It doesn't. This doesn't necessarily explain why they are taking leads and then surrendering them, but in terms of not being able to protect a lead, their back line isn't great. They still haven't found a replacement for Matt Miazga, who's been able to match his level of play. Gideon Boz,
Kamar Lawrence, and Ronald Zubar are still both out there.
Yeah,
so.
Zubar's, he is what he is. He's, an MLS backup at this point who's getting a lot of minutes. Aurelian Collins made a decent stopgap, but he's not at Miazga's level. And, Kamar Lawrence has had a massive, massive drop-off from last season. And it's been all year long. He had an injury in June in the Copa America, but he's had poor matches in March, April, May, August. Back in May, the first game against DC United, he got yanked in the first half as a coach's decision. So, he's a guy who has really been struggling. Got called for a PK against Lloyd Sam this past match. So, at right back, Chris Duval's serviceable but not great. Same for Sal Zizzo when he fills in there. Zizzo is it's still not what I think people would consider his natural position. So. It's not a great group of talent, especially compared to last year when Perenelle and Miazga were such a good partnership.
I mean, when you just named all of the players that have been getting significant minutes in New York's backline, it's almost amazing how well they've been doing, how high they are in the standings, because not one of those players you named has been an above-average defender in MLS this season.
Yeah, you can. Mm-hmm. I think as of late, you can thank Sasha Kljestan for whatever points the Red Bulls have extracted for any of their games. He's been
and BWP.
Yeah. Sasha though has really been lights out in a way that we haven't seen him, in a long time in MLS.
Yeah, we were talking about this in the press box a little bit, but it's very popular in MLS to have any player who's having a great season and be like, all right, come up to the national team. And I do think that sometimes fans get carried away, particularly with older players. If a guy's 31 years old and he's having a very good MLS season, that doesn't necessarily mean you need to suddenly implement him to a national team. Maybe he's just having a good season, but his time has passed. Sasha Kljestan, I have not been a huge fan of him.
He was so bad on the national team.
Yeah, playing for the national team in the past, but it's been a few years. He seems to have improved massively as a player since coming to MLS, and he's a guy I would be interested in seeing perhaps being a part of the team that builds toward the World Cup that's now only 2 years away. So a player of his age, he could easily be, the Brad Davis of this cycle, the early 30s guy who breaks into the picture in the second half of the cycle.
Thomas, you probably know this. Has Klinsmann ever called Kljestan in? Kljestan's been with the national team under Klinsmann at some point.
He got a decent number of call-ups over the first couple years of the Klinsmann era, but I don't think he's gotten many, if any, games since the World Cup. I don't think he's been called up since the World Cup. But in the build-up to 2014, he was definitely in the mix. He got some appearances and friendlies, and just never really impressed.
Yeah,
I feel like Sasha Kleshin this year has been what Mix Discourage should have been, and will never be.
yeah.
Not giving up on Mix yet.
I mean, the other guy I think of when I think of Kleshin is Benny Feilhaber, in terms of a guy who has really become a elite level MLS player towards his late 20s, early 30s, who a lot of fans are clamoring to see with the national team, and most likely
will never happen.
never see.
Do you know who agrees with you? Benny Feilhaber.
Yes.
He cited Sasha Kleshin by name when listing off other guys he thinks aren't getting a chance with Jurgen.
I mean, after this season, if he doesn't get a call up, he never will. I mean, if he hasn't got a call up at this point, he probably never will. But I mean, if we don't see him like in January camp or something, yeah, I mean, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't know. I can't predict that because on one hand, Klinsmann has given chances to guys like Brad Davis and Chris Wondolowski. But on the other hand, he's been incredibly stubborn with guys like Benny Feilhaber. So
I think Feilhaber speaking out publicly was the end of his chances at any appearance under a Jurgen Klinsmann.
Well,
but I think it was over before then.
Yeah. I mean, Benny appears to be more of a locker room personality issue rather than an on-field issue. Sasha, by all accounts, is a great locker room guy. No complaints with that.
Yeah, and he's serving as the captain while McCarty's out. So
I mean, again, the Red Bulls are fortunate to have somebody who can fill Dax's shoes in that regard, because obviously McCarty has become one of the more respected players on the field, leadership-wise, in MLS. So it's an incredible luxury to have somebody like Sasha you could just plug in and not miss a beat in that respect.
Let's do the last 5 minutes of the show on the 3 Cascadia teams. I think they're all interesting and worth talking about in their own regard. We've been touching on Seattle the last couple of weeks. Again, they get a win, their third in a row yesterday against Portland. Now they are only 2 points out of a playoff spot, but with 2 games in hand. So
I really enjoyed Steven Taylor's defending on Clint Dempsey's opening goal. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but he literally just turned around and ran 10 yards in the other direction.
I think the second goal, opening goal was a PK.
It? Oh yeah. First in the run play.
They Taylor. We'll see if he.
It's going to take him a while, I think, to get up to speed, but it cracked me up. He literally ran away from Dempsey. So.
There was one play in the first half where Jordan Morris literally just kind of like shoved Taylor away and flew past him, and you could tell that this was a guy who was not up to speed.
Yeah, and by some strange scheduling quirk, the Sounders played Portland again this weekend, I believe.
Yeah, it was big for Portland to get the late away goal to carry that into the second leg.
Did you guys see their tifo, the Portland supporters?
I saw the Portland tifo.
It was just said like MLS Cup Champions 15, and then it said Forever Insufferable underneath it.
Oh wow!
I was like, that's a level of self-awareness I can really, really respect.
I saw the Sounders one and did not understand it. Did you guys see it? It was some sort of like MLS Cup highlights with like an hourglass
I think that was another
icon.
Portland one.
Was that another Portland
one? Seattle MLS Cup highlights, and it was just the Windows thing spinning.
Okay.
Because there are none. Right. Get it? Because there are none.
Yes.
I gotcha.
Right.
Anyways.
So I mean, Seattle holds serve at home, and then Portland is hosting this weekend, which turns into a big game because Portland is actually that team that I mentioned who's in the 6th and final playoff spot in the West. So Seattle could actually...
Seattle plays midweek, right?
They do play Houston,
who's in last place. So, by the end of this weekend, Seattle could be
really in the thick of the playoff.
Yeah, like 4 points ahead.
They easily could
Guys,
leapfrog.
Seattle's gonna win MLS Cup.
Shut up, dude.
They have Roman Torres is almost back. Ladero's on fire. Dempsey is back from Copa America. They're gonna win MLS Cup.
It's interesting if Seattle continues this renaissance. who will be? Who will be?
2 games Renaissance.
It's
3?
I think it's
All right,
4.
3 more. I'm just saying.
Well, it'll be interesting to see who gets more credit. Will it be Lodero or will it be Schmetzer? Because everyone's sort of talking about Lodero like he is the savior of the team, and he's been doing very, very well. But they bring in a new coach, and they've been.
Yeah, but don't you get the feeling that
it could be
it could have been anybody?
Yes.
Because Schmetzer's obviously he was Siggy's assistant for years.
And tactically, formation, personnel, everything's pretty much the same.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It could have been anybody.
Yeah, I think it's clear that they need to get rid of Siggy, and now I wonder if they're thinking maybe they should have pulled the trigger a little earlier, so they wouldn't have had to dig out of such a deep hole.
Yeah, should have pulled the trigger like the Galaxy did on Harambe. Anyways.
Moving on.
You could move on. That's fine. I will never move on. Anyways.
Pablo and I are going to get our tattoos next week.
The Timbers have kind of they've been fading, and you worry about will they be able to replace Nat Borchers? They still haven't been able to replace Rodney Wallace. This is a team that lost some key pieces from that MLS Cup team.
And Villafana as well.
Yeah, and Villafana, the left back, Vitas, has been, he's been okay the last few weeks. He got called for a PK in this last game. Still not, I don't think, at the level that Villafana was last season. So you wonder if they're, going to be the team on the outside looking in. Vancouver, they have just been in free fall. And the thing is, I look at their roster, I look at their starting lineups, I'm like, yeah, that looks pretty good.
Yeah, this is a team who I regularly, because obviously look at the schedule and I'm like, oh, which games do I want to watch this week? And I look at Vancouver and I'm like, oh, they're always entertaining to watch, forgetting that like all of a sudden they're not, and it doesn't make any sense.
I just, on paper, their back line, they have Waston, they have Tim Parker, they have, the Canada internationals they signed midseason to strengthen things. Midfield, Pedro Morales, Laba are, solid MLS players. They just added Giles Barnes to strengthen the attack. And
Giles Barnes.
There's a lot of a talent. They had Fabian Espindola for like 10 seconds.
They're just difficult to watch in the way the Earthquakes. There was an Earthquakes Vancouver game, was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
At 11 p.m. that was like noose-worthy. It was just like, it was just...
That's Noose, not News.
Oh, yeah. Noose, like hanging yourself worthy.
Got it.
Right, exactly.
It sounded like you said
we got that.
Right, the way that the Galaxy hung Harambe. Anyways.
They hung him in the sense that they shot him.
Yeah. All right, moving on.
I'm very confused by these metaphors.
It's not a metaphor. Anyways.
So Cascadia, it sure looks like only one of those teams will end up making the playoffs. And right now, if I were to bet, it would be the Sounders.
Yeah.
Which is something that no one would have predicted 3 weeks ago.
Yep. But it's MLS. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Any team can go from looking completely and totally unstoppable to looking like a pile of hot garbage.
Yeah, book my flights for that Sounders Chicago MLS Cup now.
Yep. Or Columbus.
Yeah.
Who would host?
I assume that the MLS Cup will be in the West this year.
Yeah. It seems mathematically impossible that an Eastern Conference
either
team would
that
host.
or Yankee Stadium.
Oh my
That's
God.
what I'm talking about right there. MLS Cup at Yankee Stadium.
At that point in the year, the Yankees will be done for the season. Do you think maybe they take down the pitcher's mound and widen the field? Yeah.
No.
If
That's an interesting question. I wonder if they would do that.
Yeah.
If NYCFC ends up making MLS Cup, they should just have the game at Red Bull Arena.
That would probably be a good idea.
Or Giant Stadium.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Anything else?
No, unless you guys want to talk about TFC for a while.
Well, do we want to talk about the instant replay trials that happened a few weeks ago?
No, we don't.
All right, guys. We don't want to talk about that. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next week.
R.I.P. Harambe.
Galaxy did it.
It was Chris Thomas.